How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Legion's Lounge. I'm your host, Matt, joined by Taylor, CEO of Future Lore Studios and creator of Legion's Realms at War. Taylor, how's it going tonight?
Great, man. It's good to be back.
It's good to be
I know we
back.
missed a couple. I know it's good. We missed a couple weeks. It's been a crazy couple weeks. For those of you that are have always followed along with us, we just finished up our Kickstarter, and it was a success. Second time around. No need for a third time is the charm. So it's great to be back and talking Legions again. Now that we know Empires is on the way. So with that, we have one of our excellent backers and excellent community members south of the border with us, Samuel Graham from Samuel Graham Does TCGs. How's it going, man?
Hello, friends. Doing great. Empires are, in fact, on the rise, aren't they?
Yes, in fact, they are.
Love to see it. I was super excited. Those last, the last about a week or so, just watching that number just kind of steadily keep ticking on up, both the number of people backing it and the overall dollar amount pledged. Just it felt really good to see it fully funded and hitting some stretch goals on top of it.
I bet it actually felt good on your end because I know you were one of our early backers. You got in the first 24 hours at our Elysian 24-hour promotional deal. So I can only imagine as we come to the conclusion of the campaign and you kept seeing it rise and rise and rise, that has to be a good feeling as being an early promoter and early backer of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, seeing that as one of the, as soon as I saw that option, I was like, well, I can't very well do anything else, can I? Like, that was the obvious choice. Like, I was like, I know I'm pledging this. This has got to be the one.
Well, exactly. I mean, sometimes there's just that passion for a game that you just something compels you to just go all in. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happened here, and it's awesome.
We really tried to like we were talking previously before the recording of this. We were talking about we for those obviously that have been following our path along this whole way. I mean, we ran the first Kickstarter and it didn't fund, and I had a lot of people in the last couple days ask me if I was gonna cancel the project, pull it down. I've never been a one to run away. I take pride in being the underdog, and uh, success only comes from failing first, because then you can appreciate it more when you do succeed and what it takes to climb that mountain, right?
Mm,
And that whole mantra: if you first don't succeed, try again, right? So
yeah.
um, we understand that this is not the 2020 boom of the Kickstarter era where everything goes to $1 million, and we knew that coming in, right? We knew that coming in the first time around, and we learned even more so in that first time around, where our priorities lie, how people view our game as a whole. We know we weren't going to get the big investors. We knew we weren't going to get the big flippers, the ones that wanted to try and make tendies off the game. Because we're an established company, right? We have an established game. We're not brand new. People
Mm,
know what they're getting with us, right? They know they're getting a good, reliable, solid, good quality product. And it's not something that can just be like fly by night, flip and move on, right? So we knew we weren't going to necessarily attract those types of backers, but we knew that if we geared it towards our great community, we did the pledges based on rewarding the people who were backing us. We really focused on making sure everything was as absolutely affordable as possible, specifically to our friends like Samuel, who are south of the border in the United States. Your dollar has always been better than ours as
mm.
Canadians. So offering booster boxes for $66 US, I didn't think there was any other game on the market that could really beat that. For production wise, and then
Not one still printing.
no, exactly. And then when you get into a position of like yourself, who backed at the Elysian collector tier, and for all of those who backed at the collector tier post the first 24 hours, we reached our first stretch goal, and it's not just you got awesome bonus cards in the stretch goal. as a celebration of reaching our first stretch goal, knowing that we're funded at that point, we offered all of our high level collector tiers an additional full case of 6 booster boxes free of charge.
And
right?
holy cow, when that popped up, I about flipped. I was like, oh, dang. I'm really glad I did what I did now.
No, fair enough.
Well, and right from the very beginning, we've always wanted to take pride in the fact that like we support and back the people who support and back us, right? Like
Sure.
without the players and without the fans of the game, we don't exist, right? So we want to pay it forward, and we know that the fans were gonna back us and support us along the way. I mean, we reached 95 backers.
That's crazy.
I mean,
That's pretty awesome.
It might not seem like the 14, 15, 17, 3,000, 4,000 backers, but for a little old game coming out of Canada, and making the push that we have and trying to make the splash in the post Kickstarter boom era, I felt 95 is a pretty good success. Would we have liked to seen more? Yeah. Did we have like 200 active followers by the time the campaign concluded? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Did we rack our brains? The entire time the campaign was running of how we kind of convert some of those fence sitters? Yeah, but we can definitely say that we put it out all on the line. We tapped every creative source we could, every marketing tool that we could, feasibly afford to do, time and financial wise. So I feel as though that the fact that I can't help but smile that Empires on the Rise is coming out. Legions is getting its 4th booster box, or 4th booster set. This set has been with me for 6 years. I'm not gonna lie, I'm super sick of looking at it.
Fair. Even sometimes the thing you love and you've put a ton of work into, it's just like, okay, just be done, right?
No, that's fair.
Yeah,
I mean, like you're gonna be you're sick to look at it. It's gonna be sick to see in my hands. So,
Yeah, and that's one thing I really look at is that, I as much as I say, oh, I'm sick of looking at it, but this set's been with me for almost as long as our original Ravaged Land set was, and it's been these characters, especially these 8 new warlords, these big important characters in our storyline. They have been with me for a very long time. They've seen very many iterations and crafting and everything, but it feels great to get the next chapter of our story out there in a big way. This is our biggest set to date, our most collectible set to date. I was going through it the other day, just to make sure we're working with the printers now that the Kickstarter has been funded. We're working with them. As you guys in the community probably already know, booster boxes are printed. The packs are printed already, so it was just a matter of finalizing the cards and the algorithms. And for those who have talked to me before, listened to the podcast, or listened to my episodes of Inside the Creator's Mind, you know that I do a lot of behind the scenes work on printing algorithms. I hand do every single one of them. And it takes me hours. Like Ravaged Lands took me 40 hours to do a hand done algorithm. I don't leave anything up to chance. I want to make sure that my fingerprints are on everything. And just because I want the best quality possible to the people who open it, and to really resonate through that the creator was there every step of the way and didn't just pass the baton off to someone else. Right. So, it's a labor of love, and I joke around about Empire being sick of seeing empires. But I am, man, like I'm a creative mind, and like, I have Opus the Magi is like 50% built already, and that's not coming out till 2025. And I have Masquerade of the Macabre, like I'm like finalizing it now. And, I have Battle for Supremacy, which is, we're going to talk about a little bit. That's going to be the next set slotted after Empires on the Rise. Now we did a little shuffle game. And so I'm all already neck deep in that. Testing team's already going through cards now for it. So there's a lot of excitement coming, but I don't want to monopolize time here. Sam is our guest. I want him to talk about what he feels as the consumer, as the fan, as the player. The look from the other side of that looking glass that I don't get a chance to see, being on the creative and the development side. How do you feel about Empires? What we have to offer? What did you think so far?
I'm really excited, and I've really enjoyed the way kind of spoilers have, there was a big burst of them around the time of the first Kickstarter, but then stuff has still kind of trickled out a little bit here and there for future cards, and that's been such a neat thing. But little things like, okay, so I definitely play a lot of games. I came to Clarksville to Guild Vault to do the Siege Series tournament for Legions. I'm not always the best player, and I'm not like I cannot imagine myself being like a top level competitive player in any game. But the other side is I'm also a hopeless collector. And so some of the stuff popping up for Empires on the Rise, just from the collectability standpoint, from the booster set itself, but also things in the Kickstarter, have been a huge, oh, that's really awesome. I cannot wait to see this stuff. Looking at things like the gold plated, the 1 of 1 card.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we have 8 of them in the set, right? So I hand selected 8 Exalteds to get an additional gold plated 1 of 1 treatment, and they're going to our print run is public knowledge, was on the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah,
we're printing 1,800 boxes, so only 1,800 boxes. So on a grand scale, that's very tiny.
Yeah.
And so the 8 1 of 1s are seeded by my own selection in booster boxes throughout our 1,800 print run. So I believe when I was calculating it out, I think we have, after the conclusion of the campaign, I think there's like 100. I think I have 170 cases are going out from this Kickstarter campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh my goodness.
So yeah, it's just a little over 360 some odd boxes that are being distributed out. So out of the 1,800. So that was really cool to see. I think that I hope you guys end up, somebody stumbles upon at least one, if not multiple, of the 1 of 1s, and then of course takes a picture and shares it in our Discord or on social media some way.
I was about to say, if I open it, it'll be on a video, so.
And that'll be awesome, and I'll make sure everyone directs towards Samuel Graham's videos, because he's opening Legion hyper chase cards. So
that would be incredible. Like, it's one of those things, looking at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, like part of me is like really hoping to do it, and part of me is like, oh my gosh, can my heart handle that? Like
like that's going straight into like a magnetic holder, like,
oh yeah, that's like immediately, what can I put this in? What do I do?
yeah. So for anyone listening who doesn't know what the extended art gold foils or the gold plated one, the 1 of 1s contain, it's Latar, the Daughter of Destruction, Abraxas, the Mystic Fire Sphinx, Angelica's Emerald Luck Charm, Irmadexa, the Black Magic Sorcerer, Voxtox, the Demolition Doomsday, Malady's Putrid Mausoleum, Empyrean Purification Wave, and Getting Tipsy, Getting Rowdy. So one for
Which is
each.
a great card
That's
name.
such a fun name. So one for each of the legions, and it's a new Exalted released in this set, of course.
Yeah, so you're getting, you obviously get the chance to opening the first edition new Exalted of these cards, but also some of them are getting the gold foil plated treatment. And Samuel, for someone who has opened Exalteds on camera before, and I know you can probably attest to this, what we do with Legions, right? We all of our stamped cards are a double foil. So they have a rainbow foil over the artwork, and but not over the text, so everything's still very legible. But then we also do like a plated swoop and a plated stars,
which I gush over every time I see one.
It's such a good
one
touch.
Of the things. Yeah, I love it, especially like just the texture, the way it is on the printing, kind of the indentation, like I love every bit of the way those are presented.
Well, I just love the foiling for like,
yeah,
I
especially.
I hope you guys get the 1 of 1s, because I know you can probably see by the picture there, but the picture doesn't do it justice.
I'm sure.
You know that how that metallic embossed stamp that we put on it is now
Mm.
going to also be put where it says Warrior up at the top right hand side corner. It's
Oh,
also going to be on the name banner, so the name is going
oh,
to be carved out of gold.
That's
Um,
cool.
and
oh.
then the actual circle around the shield crest is going to be gold plated. The actual border of the card is going to be gold plated.
That's
Oh,
super neat.
amazing.
The actual border of the game text box will be gold plated, as well as on the bottom of the card, in place of the flavor text on those cards, we did an actual gold plated 1 of 1, and Empires on the Rise name of the set will be on there gold plated as well.
Which that looks awesome. Just on the examples put on there on the Kickstarter, just the appearance of that. Like you say, I'm sure it doesn't even come close to doing it justice, and it's already awesome. Oh, I hope to get my hands on one.
Yeah, no. If I get one, I'd be very lucky. It's one for reference. If there's 1,800 boxes and there's 8, what would the math for that be? 1,800 divided by 8. That's 1 in 225 boxes is gonna have a gold foil. So it's about pretty close to, how rare is the Elysian again?
The Elysian in this set, Alistair appears 1 in 30 boxes.
Okay, so about
Okay, yeah.
7 times as rare as the Elysian for perspective.
Now to that note though, that was also one of the things that immediately sold me on the early bird tier was not only I've consistently talked about, like, I've never had a graded card.
Mhm.
But having the graded Elysian as part of that, I was like, yep, nope, done.
And Samuel, you're one of only 17 people that got that.
Oh, that's gonna be incredible. I'm looking forward to, like I say, just everything about that shouted, yeah, no, that's the thing right there.
So important to note too, for everyone listening and for yourself knowing that the Elysian Alistair, the Elysian that is in that graded slab for your tier, is going to be the Kickstarter exclusive one. It will actually have the Kickstarter K on the card, where the one that you open in the booster box will not.
That's cool too.
So it actually is different than the one that can appear in the booster
That's
box.
awesome. I hadn't even noticed. Like, I see that in the picture right now. I had not noticed that before.
So yeah, you're actually
That's
one of
cool.
like 17 people that have the Kickstarter exclusive one.
Well, look at me. Thank you for that opportunity. That made choices very easy.
Well,
So-
and you also in that tier, you're one of 17 people that got the 2 sets of the artist signed cards.
Yeah.
The foils, and those are gold stamped as well, so with the artist signatures on them.
Oh, and some of those are just great pieces of art. Like, just fantastic. Like, even being most of them, I'm looking at them. Yeah, most of them stuff that aren't even my favorite angels. They're still incredible. Like, that was a very well selected 2 sets of 5 cards. Like, that was just brilliantly done. I was glad to see those reappear for the second Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we wanted to pull out all stops the best we could, right? And like ultimately it's about our fans and our players, right? You guys are the bread and butter, the reason why we exist. So we're going to do our absolute best as a company to be as transparent as possible and to give you guys the absolute best that we can provide.
So, shall we do a quick recap of all of the collections and everything that we got?
Sure, yeah. Break it down, man.
So, starting off, everyone, I believe everyone who backs gets a extended art Lady Darksky, like Exalted, as well as the playmat. Am I correct in that?
Correct, yeah. The
Okay.
Empire's exclusive cards, yep.
And then, so all combo, collector, and Elysian bundles, so which is the early bird, backers will receive 1 booster box of Frontiers, and then 2 expansion boxes of Bountiful Harvest.
Which, special note, Bountiful Harvest, as of the end of March, is now officially out of print.
Oh,
Doesn't
that's
mean-
right.
Doesn't mean it's not available. It's still available, but it means that we're no longer printing those boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Very neat. So, and then as well, everyone will get the Void Hollow collection and the Twilight Gardens collection, which has the main showcase is the Magic Void Hollow and the Twilight Garden extended art reprints, which are beautiful, and then the 4 Twilight Flowers, which is the Rose, Daisy, Lily, and I forget the last one. The Rose
And
Lotus. And then there's the 4 Magic Void cards, which is Magic Void Aurora, Magic Void... No, not Siphon. I forget the 4 Magic Voids, but Aurora...
Magic Void Aurora, Magic Void Typhoon, Magic Void Surge, Magic Void Pulse, and Magic Void Cluster.
And
nice.
let me be clear on this. He says they're beautiful.
They are.
That doesn't even do them justice. These
No,
look
they're
amazing.
gorgeous. Like, it's so... I'm so happy that I have the extended art Twilight Gardens, because I like seeing the extended art Twilight Flowers, because then it fits in theme with the deck that I'm playing. But and then as well at 50 we all I think everyone, if I'm correct, unlocks the Corsair of Despair collection, which is going to have Marianas, which is the first Bounty Realm warlord in the game, as well as Sea Omen Mollymawk, who is locked to Marianas, who is a guardian with the AP of 80. And then alongside that,
Marianas is 80 herself, so.
And then alongside that, you also get the playmat of Marianas, the Corsair of Despair, which is the warlord, and then you'll get the Veil Realm, the Synergy, and then a playset of 3 of her key pieces, and then I'm assuming tokens.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I can disclose it for everybody here. That yes, you get Marianas, the Corsair of Despair, which is the game's first playable Bounty Realm warlord. Technically, Ophidian was the first Bounty Realm warlord, but Marianas will be the first playable one, and obviously her faithful companion, her Sea Omen Mollymawk, which is a very terrifying looking albatross aboard her pirate ship, and then you of course get her Veil, which is the Veil of Lagoons, and that's its corresponding realm on the other side is the Bounty Realm Shotwatch Cove. It's the place where Mariana stays on her little coveted island.
That's cool.
But also you get her Synergy, which is the Ghostly Galleon, the Tidal Moon. So that is her pirate ship.
That's so cool.
And this is the famous Ghostly Galleon that not only can sail all 9 seas of the different realms, but as those who follow the lore know that the realms have been shattered for over a millennia. So not only can she sail the seas of the 9 realms, she can actually sail across the void. So
that's kind of sick, though.
So she has a very amazing ship, but also then you do get 5 tokens, which are her ghost pirates.
Nice.
Her ghost pirate tokens, they all are functionally the same card. However, their art is slightly different on each one.
That's neat.
Cool.
So
that's so cool.
It's going to be a nice little cool touch that we're working with the artist on. They're just being completed for the ghost tokens are being completed up right now. I actually saw the final mock-up for them. And then of course her key piece in her deck, which I can disclose the name for everybody. I can't tell you what it does, but it is her key warrior in the deck. And you get a full play set of him, and he's a rare, so you can play him at 3. And his name, he is the quartermaster of her ship. So cool. Those who are familiar with nautical terms or piracy in itself, during that time. In our history, the quartermaster was the one that the captain relied on to navigate and relied on to essentially command the ship, whether the pirate captain was off board or if the captain was on board, the quartermaster would take over. So her quartermaster is Quartermaster Buckshot Barnaby.
Nice.
And so Barnaby is her big power piece of what will be the Corsair Despair deck, and you're gonna be able to get Barnaby early. So
That's super nice. Is it an extended art?
yes, so all of Marianus's
Sweet.
collection are all extended art full foils.
Outstanding.
Sweet. Then alongside those 12 cards, you get the Marianus, the Corsair of Despair playmat, which is super neat. You get the inside of like the captain's quarters. It's
Yeah, you see her whole captain's quarters. Yeah,
super cool.
It looks really good.
And then
and those who
Sorry.
are, by the way, those who are fans of literature, and fans of some really great novels of the back in the day, if you look very closely into Marianus's art specifically, she is a ghost pirate, but on the wall behind her, between her two windows looking out to the stormy, tumultuous seas, you actually can see a portrait of her. And this is my reminiscent throwback to one of my favorite novels of all time, The Portrait of Dorian Gray,
Okay.
with the whole concept of the soul is in the portrait, therefore the actual being can never die until the portrait is
Mhm.
destroyed. So
Really
that was
cool.
my little nod to Dorian Gray.
That's cool. I had not noticed that. Thank you for pointing that out. That is pretty neat.
It is very neat. And then
we just squeaked in at the 55,000. So what did that unlock for everybody, man? I think we lost Matt there, but we squeaked in at the 55,000, and we were able to get the additional Empires on the Rise booster box,
which I will take all day, every day.
So I think that was pretty big. I know everyone was kind of excited to land that. We did end up reaching up to 60K, but as Kickstarters do in the final hours, everything, people come in, adjust their pledges. We gained a lot of people at the end, but we also had a lot of people adjust their pledges and make some shifts around and stuff. It was great to see. We had some great LGSs back us as well.
Nice.
Which was great to see.
Yeah.
One of them I actually want to give a shout out on this podcast too. I don't know if it's like, obviously it's a little far from you, Samuel, but at the same time, where you are situated in almost the center of the United States, this might actually be obtainable for you in some respect or some aspect if you wanted to. But the shout out to Comic Fusion, Bill, the owner of Comic Fusion, excellent store owner. We've had a great relationship with him and some of his key patrons, one of them being Case Johnson, who's already been featured on the podcast previously. Case has really been awesome at becoming a community champion in the state of New Jersey. So we've been working close with Case and Bill, and we're working on bringing a second Siege series to America.
Nice.
And it'll be headed out to the East Coast, and we'll be hosting it in New Jersey.
Oh, that's
that's
cool.
awesome.
So that'll be coming up. We're working on that near the start of the fall is what we're shooting for that. So we're just kind of trying to hammer out a date, and we'll definitely be letting people know. If everything goes according to plan, it'll probably find its way into September. So that'll be really cool because it'll be just shortly. It'll be like a month after we come back from Gen Con. So
yeah,
It's very fun. I think it's gonna be a very interesting. Like Gen Con's gonna be super awesome.
I'm still trying to find a way to arrange it that I make it out to Gen Con. We'll see how that goes, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah, that would be incredible to see you there, man. It was a blast meeting you in person the first time around. You've been an active member of our community and a big supporter to us. So we'd love to be able to see Gen Con if possible. But the Gen Con is going to be our first big jump into conventions in the United States.
That could be huge.
Company. And what better to do it than to do it at the biggest one, right?
Absolutely.
And we managed to land an awesome double wide booth there. So it is a very large space. Nothing obviously compared to some of these massive corporations, but for a small independent game studio out of Canada, we are very pleased with the size of booth that we have and the area in which we are situated at the con. So when we get more details in terms of the way our booth is going to look and present, we will definitely be sharing mock-ups and stuff with everybody and where to expect us or where to find us in the convention.
Excellent. I definitely look forward to seeing more about that and hopefully seeing it in person. Fingers crossed. We'll see what we can do.
So with this crazy big set, we are on paper, or I would like to say on the back of the box, we talk about Empires on the Rise is bringing 265 new cards to the game. Now, that doesn't count any of the variants or any of the crazy collectible pieces like we put in the one-of-ones. That doesn't even count the Revolution cards that are new to Empires on the Rise, or the sketch versions or anything like that. So when you tally it all up, plus the second edition reprints we're putting in for everybody, I think it actually, the grand total ends up being something like
328.
I think 328 or 330, something like that. Yeah. So it's.
I mean, I have the breakdown right here.
Yeah, it's going to be quite amazing.
That's awesome.
It is.
And we also, if you have the breakdown in front of you, Matt, if you go to the very bottom of that breakdown, I think we tucked something else special in there.
You did. I will get to that in 1 minute. Can I go through the breakdown?
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So it includes 4 common tokens. So the whole 328 cards, there's 4 common tokens, 96 commons. So are those tokens a part of the commons?
Yes. The tokens are in addition to, so it's a total of 100 commons in total.
Okay, perfect. 82 uncommons, 48 rares, 20 first edition renowned rares, 14 first edition exalted rares, 1 Elysian rare, which is Alistair, 8 extended art foil revolution cards. Oh wait, they're foil. Very nice. I didn't know if they were going to be or not. 8 extended alternate art sketch foils, 6 season 1 campaign cards, 4 fractured rare foils, 1 full art countdown foil, 3 Kickstarter exclusive bounty hunter rares, 8 second edition Ravaged Lands exalted rares, 8 second edition Ravaged Lands renowned rares, 8 second edition original Legions Warlords, 8 gold-plated extended art exalted rare 1-of-1 foils, and then 5 golden ticket redemption cards. So what are these?
Hey, wait, what's that?
So what are those? Explain.
I can give you a little bit more information about it. That's actually been the biggest conversation with us, the manufacturers, right now, because just like the 8 1-of-1s, these golden ticket redemption cards are. I actually picked not only the boxes that they appear in, what number they do, but also right down to the what pack they appear in.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's how much hands-on I am with this algorithm. So these golden ticket redemption cards, for those who are old enough to remember the original Willy Wonka, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, when you open that golden ticket in the wrapper and you get the tour of the whole chocolate factory. We don't have something like that because we don't have this amazing, spectacular facility to show everybody. But these 5 golden ticket redemption cards, all of them are unique, so they are not the same.
Neat. Okay.
They will share the same artwork on them, but they will all have a golden stamped redemption code on them. So they will be in our double foil gold stamp. The golden stamp redemption foil or code, and all 5 codes are different. So that way, there's no sharing of codes. Basically, if you open yours, you email us your redemption code, and it gets crossed off the list. So that way you can get to keep your card as long as you have the code, and you can redeem it with us. And Future Lore Studios will send you free of charge a very, very limited edition collectible item.
That's
for
super
for just opening the redemption code card.
That's interesting. All right.
Super neat.
So just another added little bonus to this already crazy set. So.
Ooh. Now you've got my imaginative juices flowing of what that could possibly be.
Well, you know us well enough now, Sam, that that we don't do anything, halfway.
Oh,
So,
no, you don't mess around there. Yeah. Ooh, that's
but
awesome. That's exciting.
I know, Matt, you've been pulling up all the information so far while we
Mhm.
list on the Kickstarter. I believe there's one other thing that we put on there.
Is there? Is it
Something
near the?
something to do with a really good box, maybe,
Oh, the
or
original.
a couple really good boxes.
Is this the pre-alpha warlords?
Well, no, but we could talk about those as well
Cool.
because
So,
Samuel is getting one of those as well.
Hey,
so to the first 50 backers who pledged $800 or more, you will get, or 800 Canadian or more, apologies. You'll get one randomly chosen pre-alpha warlord test card, as well as one Ravage Lands alpha booster box. So, and there's only 11 warlords printed of each of the 8 legions. So if you want to explain what that is, Taylor.
Yeah, so key thing to note, and the reason why we're specifically calling them the Alpha Ravage Lands booster boxes. So when we here at Future Lore Studios printed Ravage Lands, we only printed 1,600 boxes, so 200 less than what we printed coming up with Empires here.
mm-hmm.
But 1,600 booster boxes, which is very, very small. What we did with those is specifically the first 15 cases that came off the print run, we held back. So they are the OG first ones off the line, and we kept those cases sealed. And then as more people got into the game and stores got on board and stuff like that, we pulled from our other inventory for Ravage Lands, but we kept those original first off the line 15 cases sealed. So out of those, I personally kept one myself as my own, obviously, as my creation. So I kept
Rightfully
one
so.
personally myself. But that left the remaining ones sitting in inventory, and we held them back knowing we were going to want to use them for some sort of special purpose. So when we brought Empires to market through Kickstarter, we felt as though that what better to honor basically the next big booster set and the next big starting point for the game, specifically for new players that we're onboarding, than to pay homage to the set that started it all. And we dusted off and pulled out some of these older cases that originally came off the printing press from Ravage Lands, the ones that we set aside, and we're pulling from those cases to send out to the backers, much like yourself, Samuel. So
That's cool.
You're getting one of the very first ever printed boxes in our game's history, along with these pre-alpha warlords. Now I have one of them in front of me right now, and these pre-alpha warlords are, they're an amazing part of our game's history. But I'm going to tell you right now, they've seen some battles, So if you're expecting something crazy and pristine, these are not it. These are the originals. These are right from my own personal collection. These are the original 8 warlords that me and my best friend, who is the only other tester at that time, spent the last 10 years grinding away with. So these warlords have seen a tremendous amount of play. We kept them in good condition the best we could. Obviously, they were double sleeved and everything in top loaders, but the original printing that we did with them was commercially done, but on a much smaller scale, obviously, only having 11 of each one ever printed. But they are so different, and the cards have so much more nuance than they were then, because they have the old shield crests. The old shield crest that didn't even have the gold backing behind it, so it didn't even have the first edition symbol on them. They didn't even have their appropriate color bar up the side of where their name is. They were all actually in this like pale yellow color.
Funny.
The actual bottom blue box that holds our legal information and our flavor text is actually not there either on these original cards. The flavor text is just free floating over the artwork in a different font. And there's a small thin line that says their set number that they come from. and the illustrator, as well as the original name for our company before we were incorporated as Future Lore Studios. The game company that I started back when I just graduated college, and that's what we were originally going to run with until we decided to incorporate and make Future Lore Studios our household name. So on these original alpha printed Warlords, you'll actually not see Future Lore Studios on them. You'll see our original company name, which was Drops of a Dreams Productions. So these are as old and as original as it gets. They're square cornered, they're not rounded. They have the old version printing of Decimea on the backs of them, which is very dark and the colors are saturated differently. These are our testing cards through and through. And they've held a very special place to me over this time. And I feel as though that they're probably best served to some of our most dedicated followers and community members. These Warlords, I'm going to reiterate, are not tournament legal because they are very, very different than they once were, the ones they ended up being. Specifically Mortis, for those who are Undead fans. Mortis's effects are way stronger on the pre-alpha version than what they are now. So, but you'll actually get to see a little bit of the evolution of how the cards came to be. So.
Neat.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw those and assumed it was something like that, but getting more of the background, more color to it, that's actually honestly cooler than I was even imagining at first.
Yeah, and they were even printed on a different cardstock then too, right? So like everything about them is very different than what our final piece ended up being.
That's awesome.
I have one quick question. Sorry, this is kind of off topic. But,
okay.
The artist signature series.
Yeah.
Are those tournament legal?
So the artist signature series, I don't think we can really make them tournament legal. We've gone back and forth with the testing team about them, but because some of them are exalteds, we felt as though the exalted artwork, we felt as though that would make an unfair advantage to those who got them compared to those who didn't. And then trying to make them tournament legal when they have no game text or anything on them. Not only that, is we have opted against making them tournament legal by simply they will be printed with a different back on them.
Okay.
So they'll still be the Legion's back. It'll still be Decimea, but it's going to be printed with our promo art version of Decimea. They're very much different than an actual tournament legal card.
Fair enough. And if you, let's say someone were to have this, would they be able to have like a top loader, like with the artist signature series on one side and then the legal card on the other side? If it's like, I don't know, Serena or Belladonna, for example.
In that situation, yeah, much like we have our box topper dual-sided Warlords, if you feel so inclined to have your signature series on the backside of a top loader, then yes, for sure, as long as you have the legal, actual, real card on the other side, right? If you want to show off that, because I believe like not only Belladonna and Serena Sada were there, but I believe also Marianas is in that artist signature series as well. So
yeah,
as well as Viseria, Nyx, and Raylene. Wow.
Yeah,
Raylene. I forgot her name.
I was sitting there looking at her, trying to remember her name. Which I feel like that's probably like for nearly 30 years now, I've been in and out of both card games and miniatures games, and that was sort of their take on it, was if you had something like that, or like in miniatures games, if you had a repainted figure or something like that, they were like, yeah, you can do that as long as you've got the original, like a copy of that set aside that you can put it in if somebody protests, basically.
Exactly.
So that's a cool way to handle that.
I agree. And there's so much awesome stuff coming from this Kickstarter. There's so many questions that I want to ask. Like, well, I don't know if we have enough time for it though.
Speaking of the awesome things, I think there's one thing that you need to highlight. Some sort of special box.
I'm looking at it.
All right, Sam, what is it?
The 3 in 1800 God box.
Oh, those. Yeah. I forgot about that.
And what And what do we have in the God box?
Oh my gosh. So I'm sitting here, like, I already said that if I see a gold plated one of the one of ones at all, I'm just gonna lose it. If it was in one of these, I just don't even know how I would handle myself. So in a God box, I gave part of it away already. A one of one gold plated exalted will be there. The Elysian Alistair will be in there. A countdown foil, a first edition exalted, and 4 renown rares. That's a pretty fantastic box.
That is
Yeah.
a copious amount of value.
Yes, and I specially tucked in. There's 3 of them in the entire print run. So those of you who are counting, we have the 8 gold-plated one of one.
3 of them are in
a God box. Yeah.
Oh,
Damn.
that is too cool.
So now, Sam, if you're opening cards on your channel, and
I'm just toast.
Maybe the first pack or the second pack, you open a gold foil.
It's like, oh no, what's the rest of this? What are we doing?
Exactly. Already, it's like, yes, but there's a potential that one of them is a God box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the funny thing. I've talked to people a couple times about. It's like every now and then, you just pull that card. It was pretty close with when I pulled my Ophidian when I was videoing that. Just those moments of either an unearthly squawking noise or just utter stunned silence staring at what just came out of the pack.
Yeah, and something I want to add is these boxes have so much value. Like, just even if you don't get an exalted, it's a 1 in 2 chance. You still have so much value. You're getting, I want to say 3 to 4 renown rares.
Yeah, on average it'll be 3 renown rares per box, so which is 1 better than any of our sets prior.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the potential of a 4th one in the box as well, depending on where the algorithm falls. Which
is cool. That's always fun to kind of have that. Here's what you should expect, but
exactly.
those pleasant surprises of one extra thing there is always neat.
And then you're gonna average 1 sketch foil per box on average.
Okay.
As well as 1 foil revolution card per box on average. You're also going to get those the season 1 campaign cards that were only previously available through competitive play are now seeing a reprint in this set as well. So people who couldn't come out and get through the in-person play events, they're going to end up getting it in the booster box now. So
that's awesome. I'm definitely excited. There were some of those that I wanted to pick up, and I just couldn't make enough events to. Well, I couldn't hardly win a game, but I couldn't make enough events to make it happen. But
and that's how we want to approach it, right? We want to make sure that in no way do we want to have a barrier to entry for people or a paywall of any kind. So we really want to make everything as affordable and as attainable as possible, while simultaneously trying to keep collectability. So we feel as though the best way to do so is awarding people these campaign cards, which, for those of you listening who don't know what our campaign is, Legions at a game store, at your local game store, if you carry Legions or want to carry Legions, is that you get the opportunity to have a weekly tournament prize support that's given to you guys from Future Lore Studios free of charge, and it's 1 play mat per week. So 4 play mats over the course of the month on average, as well as 4 top 4 promos and a first place prize promo. Those cards are all going to appear in foil extended art when you get them in the campaigns. But for those, like I said, who couldn't make it out to those events, will ultimately get those cards in the next available set in regular version non-foil. So you'll still be able to get those cards for playable reasons.
Speaking of weekly campaigns, I am very happy with one. I recently just won one.
Hey, nice job.
Thank you. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it easier this week. I'm going to not play super competitively. And then I see the playmat and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back on what I said.
And I got to give credit for Matt. He not only pulled out his first campaign win, but he pulled it out with dwarves.
Burn dwarves. I love burn dwarves.
Nice.
They're funky little
Nice.
creatures. It's a fun deck.
Well done. Well done. How about that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Good
So which
job.
brings dwarves now up to 11 wins,
Yes.
officially on top of heroes.
Oh.
But yeah, it's very exciting.
It is. It's great to see, and I believe Empires is going to really shake that up because, you know, as you labeled out what we're coming. We have coming. There's 8 new warlords coming in Empires on the Rise, and Samuel getting the collector tier got automatic access to all 8 of them in dual-sided foil.
That's exciting too.
It's very exciting.
Even thinking about like from Frontiers with the dual-sided box toppers, like those were a cool touch for box toppers. That was another sort of no-brainer for the dual-sided warlords for this set being part of that top tier. I was like, yes, please. Those look awesome.
So that way, like right away, you can build anyone you want because they're all right there at your fingertips now, right? So
now here's what we know is going to happen though, because I've talked a little bit about being like, well, I don't know what I can do. Angel's been hurting my feelings. You know, I'm just going to build Angel again.
Well, now you have the Dark Angel, right?
Exactly. So. And that's 100% going to be my first stop is all right, let's rebuild this a little bit. Let's try something different. Same neighborhood, different address.
Yep. And yeah, that's a great way to look at it is, you know, we here at Future Studios, we didn't ever really want to expand the game with so much, like we didn't want to grow beyond, you know, 8 legions or 9 realms, including the Boundary Realm, right? I think you and I have talked about that in depth before, Samuel, I believe in person, but we really wanted to build depth into the game as opposed to just a wide array of things. So really honing in on each legion and building basically a warring faction within those legions allows you to still be able to use and have all your cards backwards compatible with older sets, but really tie into and further develop the story of each realm and each legion respectively.
For sure. Yeah. I love that concept too. The deep rather than wide definitely has a lot of appeal.
Well, now we did make it slightly wide because Empires is giving us eight new warlords for their existing legions, but now we have Bounty as a playable legion thanks to our Ghost Pirate Marianas,
which is pretty cool too. Like I was really excited seeing that as one of the stretches as well, being like, okay, all right, we could get this on the board faster too. That'll be good times.
I've already been theory brewing a little bit for her. She's pretty powerful.
Well, that's the thing is our community, as soon as we announced that the Corsair of Despair deck was in the works, everyone wanted to see Marianas, and they wanted to play their favorite Ghost Pirate before she was even legal to be played. So we had to give the community what they wanted. Even
That's
if it was
fantastic.
just a small glimmer of it. You know, she's not going to have all of her pieces yet,
right?
But she's definitely going to be playable right on release. So
that's awesome. All right, so I kind of hinted at this earlier, and this is off of the Kickstarter topic, but you've talked a lot about lore and stuff, and this was a holdover question from the last time I was on the podcast that I didn't get in. So if we have time, I would like to ask another question, Taylor.
For sure.
Okay. Of course. So the question I had, you and I, again, talking in person, this came up, like, overall fantasy, sci-fi, all of the above are things I'm into. One of the things for that is I'm real into Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. Well, you mentioned that that's not really something that you have a history with. So that got me wondering, it's because so much fantasy in particular kind of takes influence from Lord of the Rings. That got me wondering what were the influences for your world building? What made you really want to dive into like a fantasy world like this? What made your lore design? What made it you?
Well, for those who have listened to me speak before or asked similar kind of questions, they know that I have a background in television and film. So I spent a lot of my years doing that. I went to school for it. I have post-secondary education for it. So when it came down to it, obviously Legions was always going to be intended to be a screenplay, right? And then I amalgamated it with my love for card games, and here we are, right? But that's just obviously skimming the surface. But where does the story and the world building come from? Well, much like yourself, Samuel, I am a diehard science fiction fan.
Okay.
I think space is the final frontier. I think it's something that is truly terrifying. But as much as I love science fiction, you can't go into science fiction without an element of fantasy. Your mind wanders, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where you kind of get the aspect of our early parts of our lore, where everything was kind of birthed from the void, from nothingness, much like a space. And that's why I always do a little throwback to it, especially now with these new Magic Void cards coming, because they're coming from the void to harvest magic. So that's the whole premise of the void, and that is just my my roots to the love of sci-fi, and that's my little tip of the hat of sci-fi. But fantasy overall, I have always found fascinating because it's a world into itself, right? Like it's something that we don't get a chance to experience. A part of me ever since I was a kid always believed dwarves and gnomes and giants were maybe real at one point.
Sure.
That maybe elves are there, we just don't see them. Maybe vampires walk among us and you just don't know it, right? There's always those like elements of mystery, and as more time goes on and more things unfold, and I'm a big student of history, so I draw a lot of my inspiration from world history.
Cool. Okay.
The Titans have a lot of draw from the pantheon of Greek gods and the and the Romans and stuff, right?
Speaking of, we get Zeus.
There's some key figures I'm going to try and do my best to keep away from.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to draw too similarities to just like your regular run of the mill fantasy things.
Sure.
But I've always found, much like yourself there. I never read any of the Lord of the Rings books. To me, I was never a very strong reader.
And they are tough.
Yeah, and I look at books like that, I find them very daunting to go through because it's just a dense read. Yeah. I've always been a visual learner. That's why I adapted and went towards film and video. So I have seen the Lord of the Rings movies. I actually sat and watched I watched all three extended director's cuts all in one sitting. It was like 12 hours, I think.
Amazing. I've done that
once. Yeah. However, I know it's probably blasphemy to say, definitely not my favorite trilogy of all time, but I think they did a great job. I'm a sucker for science fiction, so
sure.
But I look at that, and there's great epic moments in Lord of the Rings, but I find that their world building was phenomenal. I found some of the storytelling sometimes dry.
Yeah.
So when I wanted to do it, I wanted to dive in rich, and I've always been a proponent and a believer that the characters drive the story and not the world. But as the characters move through and develop, their world impacts them and changes them, and as a result, they reflect and they imprint and change their world, right? So they go hand in hand. But each little thing I got inspiration from, like I can say that like Sharn is one of the first characters that I ever built. Outside of Decimea herself, she was the very first character I ever made. That's why she's on the back of the card art. That's why she's my big bad. But like I think I've mentioned before, Decimea is my nod to being the icon and the epitaph of evil. So Decimea is my nod to science fiction and my nod to Darth Vader.
You're right.
So as the big bad that everyone ultimately wants to take down, but was once good, and because of their true intentions and good, eventually turned bad. And now you're left with this imbuing shadow that is now over everyone, right? So Decimea was kind of my nod to Darth Vader in a way. But like I said, outside of that, Sharn was my next one that I made, being the daughter of Decimea. But I didn't stick with that science fiction theme. As a kid, one of my absolute favorite TV shows to watch was Xena the Warrior Princess. With Lucy Lawless and her signature la, 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 like throwing her blade and stuff. Like, to me, that was amazing. I still have the theme song embedded in my head. So Sharn was like my nod to Xena the Warrior Princess.
Cool.
With that whole concept of the Blood Maiden that grows up on the outskirts and the odds are always stacked against her. So like, it's just little things like that that kind of influenced me and gave me some direction. Some great screenwriters and some great directors and storytellers over the course of my life impacted me in a way. But I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's like when you ask an artist why they painted something, and it's just because they saw it one day in their head, right? And so it's kind of the same thing. In no way am I a good artist or a master storyteller. I'm still learning, but these characters just, I don't know. It's just, I spent so much time in my head as opposed to the real world. Maybe that has something to do with growing up as an only child, but I used to like writing and drawing and just creating these characters. Like Sharn and Decimea have been with me for 20 years. So having that kind of that tie to your characters, and just, I'm a people watcher. I experience life through witnessing what other people do and what other people say and everything. And so like, I see a lot of characteristics from people that I like to put into my characters. So
that's cool.
Everyone like I grew up with or surrounded with, there's pieces of these characters that are from people that I have come across in my lifetime, and I just kind of like draw in, and they all have their own motive over my big overarching story, right? But yeah, it's just like, and like I said, a huge fan of ancient history, and I always love the aspect of like that polytheistic multiple gods that a lot of different religions and ancient mythology have. And to me, that's where my Elysians came from.
Sure.
The creator, these different gods that come from different walks of life and represent a different viewpoint or a different way of living. And that concept of the film noir that I spent 2 years of my like undergraduate going over, like the concept of film noir, where every character has a light and a dark side, and no one is truly good and no one is truly evil. That they have an element of light and shadow in them. And so I kind of built that in and created these alternative motives. And each character in Legions, it battles their own inner demons in some way, whether they look at it as they're trying to serve a purpose for themselves or for their legion or their world or their god, or if they're driven by something else. But it's just an aspect of an ever-changing, ever-shifting landscape based on how the characters perceive the world around them.
Absolutely. Well, and it's interesting you mentioned, because as a general rule, no person is going to do everything they do is not going to be good or evil as a general rule. Like, the most evil person's going to have a pet the dog moment, and the best person's going to have a kick the dog moment, to use the TV tropes terms. That's just going to happen. But thinking about in fiction too, like, even cycling back to Lord of the Rings, specifically the books, the movies fiddled with this a little bit, but it's why a character like Boromir, who, sorry, spoiler alert, it's an old book and an old movie for people who are listening you're just gonna have to deal. But like Boromir, who tries to take the MacGuffin of the story, tries to take the ring for a good reason, but becomes consumed with, I have to have this so I can help my city. Kind of tries to do that and then turns around and to the death tries to defend some people that are much weaker than him, kind of in trying to bounce back from that, redeem himself from that, is a much more interesting character, especially in the book, than Aragorn, like the sort of the chosen one-ish character, the returning king, who in the book basically has no doubt whatsoever. Like, that is the road he's on. He is going to be king. The movie makes him have a little bit more angst about it, but it's like that character that is not infallible, that has that doubt, has that both good and bad stuff that they're struggling with, is always the more interesting character to me when I'm reading or watching or just hearing a story.
Yeah, and for sure, and that's exactly the kind of thing. Like I said, characters to me are what drive the story along, and like you said, no character is infallible, and just like people, right? They may do something because they know their purpose and they believe it to be true, and they believe it to be helpful, but another person viewing it from a different angle sees the opposite, right? And so what one character may believe to be pure and helpful and push forward for their people, their race, their religion, whatever it may be, the other side sees it differently, right? And that's just the power of perspective, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that if you can capture that, some of the best authors, Tolkien included in history, best storytellers, were able to capture that perspective, and not only capture it, but deliver it to the audience in multiple ways, so you can see the perspective from different angles. And
absolutely.
as a result, it creates, it turns your one character from a 2-dimensional character into a 3 or 4-dimensional character.
And something I feel in Legions that's a perfect example of that is Michael. Right? In the first set of Ravaged Lands and the starter decks, and even Frontiers, you see him as this, like, perfect, I don't want to say perfect, but very, like, good aligned being, and
it's this embodiment of purity. And this,
I was about to say, that bastion of morality, kind of.
Exactly. But then as you learn more about the lore, he smited his own brother, if I'm correct.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And as well, same with, he's at least trying to, with, oh my goodness, I forgot his name.
With Castiel. Yeah, so that's actually a really good point, and I think it not only ties into Samuel playing angels and enjoying them so much, and probably returning to them again in Empires, but also to go to this character morality and perspective. Yes, in the storyline, and much like everyone would think, angels are always the pinnacle of purity, right? You see them as heavenly divine characters or creatures. They're there to save you in your time of need. But the reason I chose Michael the Divine Wrath is just exactly that. Wrath can be dark. Wrath can be malicious, and Michael holds the scales of justice for a reason, right? So in this situation, you're in this thing is that Michael is battling his own morality because centuries ago he smited his own brother, and he was warned at that time by his brother, saying that one day, Michael, you will share the same fate as me. And now his day of reckoning has come. Castiel is rising up using the augments and the elements of the Chaos Divine to help him. He's turning the neutral angels to what people would assume to be the side of darkness, given the fact that Michael seems to be the epitaph of purity and the gold and the wings of white and glimmering hope. And you see Castiel rising up, and he's the black armor angel with the sabers, and you immediately associate him with being a dark angel and evil. But this is where I try to take creativity and common perception and spin it on its head, because Castiel, he's called Castiel the Tears of the Lost Messiah. He is suffering. He is hurting because what he believed to be his savior, his guiding light, was taken down centuries ago by Michael.
Mm.
And so now Castiel has finally mustered the strength, the power, and the backing to uprise against the one who smited him. So now
Yeah.
Castiel is trying to overthrow the heavens with what looking on the outside looking in as revenge, but he's looking at it as justice. And in this set, that's why you have an exalted card called Michael's Final Wrath. This is the set where Michael falls.
Mm-hmm.
This is where his purity comes to an end. And that's why he looks so angry in that image. And he's got his blue battle armor on, and he's plummeting down with this Doomdrake of the Undead.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael is defeated by Castiel in the storyline at this point in time. And Michael experiences defeat in some of the most awful way, is that he loses his wings and he falls from his grace. And he does it in the irony of the fact that he was forewarned centuries before, right?
Yeah.
So it's this, you see this triumphant rise and this triumphant fall. And you know what, that common saying, you tell me a story of a hero and I'll tell you a story of a tragedy, right?
Sure.
Shakespeare perfected that. So it's the same thing with Michael, is that he eventually falls. Now, does that mean he's gone from the game? No, not at all. Michael will reappear, but he won't reappear as a warlord, and he won't reappear as an angel.
Ooh.
So just because he falls doesn't mean he's gone for good. He will then make his way and align with a new legion.
That's cool.
If I'm correct, wasn't a Noscilisk an angel?
And Noscos is a fallen angel priestess. She was once an angel as well, yes. But she took the path of darkness after being taken down
True.
from grace. Michael saw his error in his ways, and despite his vengeful act at the end, knowing that he was on his way down, he doesn't seek the path of darkness. He seeks the path of reconciliation. So the question is, which legion does he end up with, and where does he show up again?
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I mean, immediately.
Which then brings me into actually something that we have been working with in design team, and I'm going to kind of give everybody this little teaser of it. I know, Sam, you're a big fan of Flesh and Blood. I know you cover it pretty extensively on your channel, and I know that you're very familiar with James White and Legend Story Studios' approach to the Living Legend status,
right?
As a unique way of a ban list, right? Or a unique way of rotating cards out of the game without actually having physical set rotation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a great way of doing it. I definitely agree. And kind of, I guess maybe kind of like along those lines, we're not going to have anything like a Living Legend status by any means, but there's a reason why all of my warlords have a name and then a title, similar to how Magic had Jace the Mind Sculptor, right?
Yeah.
Or Liliana of the Veil and then Liliana of Vess, right? The characters go through an evolving story arc. So Michael right now is the Divine Wrath, and then when he falls and he reappears as another character, he will have a different title. His name will still be Michael, but he'll have a different title. And so how we're going to kind of work on this is, as we evolve the game, that, for instance, Michael's the best one to use as an example here. When he reappears again in the game with a different title, that is when him as a warlord moves out of competitive play.
Cool. Okay.
Because at that point, he is no longer that character anymore.
Right.
He's evolved, right? So, or he has at least changed in some way. So when he becomes a printed card again with a different title, it could be in the same legion, but in Michael's case, it'll be in a different legion. Mm-hmm. Michael will be subtracted, his warlord will be subtracted from competitive play.
That's cool. Okay.
Do you by that, do you mean
I
just
like that a lot.
won't be meta, or?
No, he'll be subtracted from competitive play is that the fact that he will no longer be allowed to be played in the constructed format.
Like the Divine Wrath would no longer be a legal, quote unquote, warlord for competitive play, is how I'm hearing that.
Then
Okay.
what would happen to the Seraphim?
Well, that's the thing is the Seraphim themselves have always existed, right? There's a
Mhm.
reason why the card call is called Ascension to the Seraphim, right? So yes, it came in Michael's deck. Yes, it has been a prominent card in Angel's play right now, but there's a reason why it's not locked to Michael. So Castiel, who is not a Seraphim Angel, is trying to overthrow a Seraphim, right? And when he completes his task and defeats Michael, Castiel works his way to becoming a Seraphim. So the whole concept of ascending to the Seraphim.
Yeah.
Right. So come the time that Michael does, like I said, appears, then the Divine Wrath version of Michael will no longer be part of the competitive play format.
I see.
Doesn't mean he won't be played because we have a lot of different focuses and another format to roll out with Legions as time goes on. But that's how we plan on making sure that our characters continue to evolve and still add depth without going too wide.
Mm-hmm.
Very neat. Because I mean, if Michael gets banned, I'll just put Castiel in his place. Because then it's you can do Seraphim Castiel, and I've been tinkering with that idea.
Important point to note is that just because eventually Michael will technically cycle out of the warlord opportunity, it doesn't mean another angel warlord won't come along to challenge Castiel for his place.
That's what I was thinking too.
100%.
Because there are other Seraphim angels out there that don't believe Castiel is worthy to become a Seraphim. So, and there's some flavor text that has hinted at some future warlords to come.
Gabriel? No.
Potentially Raphael.
Raphael, interesting.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. I like that.
But with that, I think it's a decent place to wrap up for the night.
I believe so too. It's definitely good to be back and doing this. I know every time I talk to Sam in some way, we always get into a deep dive about stuff, but I know one thing that always comes out from the other side of it is that Sam, and in this case, everyone listening, sees that we are far more than a flash in the pan.
Mm-hmm.
And we took Empires to Kickstarter to try and reach a larger scale of people. We have a lot in store for this game. And as you can tell, just by our discussion over this past hour or so, has been about the different nuances in the evolution of these characters and the evolution of sets. There's a lot to come. And this has been my life's work for a reason. And I have right now sitting on my desk, I have about 15 to 16 sets designed and ready. So we are in no way are we wanting to slow down or fade away. Legions is here to stay.
Love it. That's exciting.
It's very exciting. Sam, do you have any more questions or things you'd like to
add? I'm good at this point. I'm just excited to see in a few months Empires on the Rise in my hands.
I fully agree. The release tournament is going to be super fun.
One of the major things we want to focus on, like I said, Empires will be going into production in May, as early of May as possible. We're just working, like I said, I've just been working the past week on algorithms. So as that gets ready to go into print, the goal is to have Empires in our studio by the end of June and shipping out by the end of June is the plan. Obviously, as we know with manufacturing, there can always be hiccups here or there, delays or whatever, but obviously we'll be as transparent as possible. But we have 50% of the work already done in terms of packaging already finished. So it's just a matter of getting the cards printed, cut, and put into that packaging in the proper algorithms. But if all goes as planned, it'll be the end of June, beginning of July, it'll be in people's hands. So
Exciting. Looking forward to that.
I look forward to all of your crazy openings, and I hope you get some. I hope you get some awesome gold cards.
Something that stuns me into silence.
Hopefully.
That would be
Sam,
fantastic.
It has been a pleasure, man.
Thank you for having me back. I had a really good time the first time, so I was always like, ooh, when do I get to do it again? So being able to do it again this week was just fantastic. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for
and
coming
thank
on,
you for
man.
answering my question. Like that was a really cool answer. I really appreciated that.
I appreciate your backing, your support, getting in on day one of the Elysian tier, and I hope the booster box gods favor you.
I appreciate that. And Matt, thank you so much for facilitating this too. You do a good job.
Oh, thank you. I really don't do too much, but I appreciate it.
Matt, we can't run it without you, man. So it's good to be back. It's good to be back talking to you again. And I believe next week we have another returning guest, awesome community member as well. So we'll try and finalize and work out those details. Ooh. But Samuel, it's going to be great to have you out on the podcast, and we'll be putting it out Monday as per usual. So
fantastic.
But with that, have a good night, everyone. I guess good rest
Bye,
of your day.
Thank you.
Until next time.